Hello, rookies. Hope you had a successful week in week 11. I went 1-2 on free picks and 4-7 overall. Better, but still not good enough. Jeff, how was your week 11?
1-2 on free picks as well. Then I went 5-3-1 overall. I was saved by the Sunday 3:00 games.
Yeah, I think they're onto something. The 3 o'clock games seem to be easier to pick. That's where all my wins are coming from. I'm not getting any wins early. I don't know what's going on there, if it's a time change or what.
Yeah, those primetime games at 3:00 tend to have the more marquee games. So I guess I've watched a little bit more of those teams maybe, or just maybe the betting is a little more straightforward with them.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know I've had 3 bad weeks. Hey, my key takeaways for week 11 is there's a lot of injuries to take into account. And many players are game time decisions. So you have to look at that injury report and adjust your picks and maybe even not make a pick. The biggest one for me this week was Arizona. That was it was really, I don't know if they made the decision on Sunday or on the game time decision. Obviously, we gave you the pick. I gave you a free pick on Thursday. I would not have made that pick had I known Murray wasn't playing. So you got to watch those. Hey, a couple of players to watch this week, I think, is Parsons for Dallas. There's multiple players on the Giants defense. Pitts for Atlanta, he's out. Fields in Chicago is an iffy. Mixon's in concussion protocol. We don't know if he'll be able to play. And multiple Rams to include Stafford in concussion protocol. Hey, one thing I noted, Jeff, and I don't know if you picked it up, but 3 centers left the games on week 11, did not return. So got to watch them closely. Cole for the Steelers, Posick for the Browns, and Brown for the Lions. A couple of tackles also went down. Stanley for the Ravens. I think he's the blindside protector for Jackson. Nishiki for the Rams. Darisaw for the Vikings. Losing your center and left tackle is as bad as losing as bad, in my opinion, as losing a key offensive player. I mean, the center, the offensive line schemes usually, blocking schemes usually run around that guy. So that's kind of what I picked up for week 11 takeaways that I'm bringing into this week. Jeff?
Certainly the injuries and weather were 2 of my main takeaways last week, previous week 10. Same thing flowed through to this week. Those are becoming, important mid to late season. Weather and injuries are big. The other thing that's surprising is some of the quarterback play. I mean, Zach Wilson obviously getting benched in New York. I mean, some people are just really struggling Trevor Lawrence still has not pulled it out in his second year. So I'm a little surprised by some of the poor quarterback play from some of the younger players.
Yeah, you got to wonder, and I'll talk about this in a minute, but I just got a stinking suspicion that some of these players put money into crypto, and I think they may have just lost. They may be playing for free this season.
Yeah, I've been a little distracted by losing all that money.
Well, I don't want to get into anything, that's like controversial. This is a football station, but you got to believe that. The FTX, this crypto exchange, kind of went bankrupt, and no one knows where the money's at. The warrants aren't there. No one like there's missing money, and you got to wonder who invested there, right? Because mom and pop, they're not investing there. It's going to be people with lots and lots of money. And who to have lots and lots of money? Well, football athletes have lots of money. So I'm not saying that's what it is, but I'm not saying that I wouldn't be looking at it, because that can be distracting. So I don't know. It is interesting that the quarterback play has been, kind of shipshod this year for sure. Hey, no bye teams this week, but we do have the Jags, Dolphins, Seahawks, and Bucks return to action. Dolphins got the best return bye game, hosting the Texans at home. The Jags are hosting the Ravens while the Hawks host the Raiders and the Bucks go on the road to Cleveland. So keep that in mind as you're making those bets. So I kind of talked about the FTX scandal and ideally I hope none of the players have money in the company. But just do some research. That company lost billions of dollars. It may be up to 34 billion. It could be bigger than Enron. And they're not getting their money out, it doesn't look like. So, if you're a player that put a sizable chunk of their money in there, I'm not sure they're going to get it out. And that can be affecting the psyche of folks. So I don't know how you would check for it, but if there's any rumors out there, you may want to, go through all the blogs and I'm not saying to bet against or for, but you may just want to stay away. Any thoughts on that, Jeff?
Well, one, I'm glad I wasn't in FTX, as I am a crypto person. So that would have been painful and distracting for me. So I can imagine it would be for the players as well, because I know a lot did start putting their salaries into crypto this past year. That became a big thing. So yeah, there could be several players that are impacted by that.
Right. And, the thing with FTX is, like the Major League Baseball was involved. The umpires put FTX on their uniforms. Miami Heat was gonna, name the stadium. So, it wasn't like this company didn't seem very, very legit, right? It wasn't like this was like some super scam. Well, it could be a super scam, but what I'm saying is it didn't appear that way. So, some of these young players may have thought, hey, well, this is the new thing. And in mode, the new way of doing business. Not so sure. It could, and I'm not saying it's affect them. They're all professionals that it shouldn't affect them, but I know it'd affect me if I lost a couple $100,000 or more in a crypto scam, and it doesn't look like I'm getting my money back. But let's not talk about that anymore. We have 3 Thursday games for Turkey Day with the Cowboys hosting the Giants, the Lions hosting the Bills, and the Vikings hosting the Pats. Kickoff Thursday, week 11, the first game at 11:30. The Lions are hosting the Bills. The Bills are favored on the road. I think it's up to 9 now, and the over-under is set at 54. Both teams won last week. The Lions upset the Giants on the road. They played really well against the run. The Bills beat the Browns in Detroit, but note they did go home after that game and will return for Thursday's game. The Lions O-line is banged up, and most did not practice Monday. That's one thing I saw. The Bills are getting some of their secondary back, but they've been banged up too. Despite the number here, I would favor the Bills and fade the total 54. Seems like it's a bit too many with as many banged up players on short rest. Maybe a prop bet against running backs. If you got that, seems like with the offensive line woes that the Lions are having, that might be one of value. Jeff, any thoughts here on this first Turkey Day game?
I'm going to jump right into a free pick.
Okay.
I like Buffalo. My analysis says they should win this by a little over 13. So 9 gives me plenty of cushion there. I also like the fact that they just played in this stadium last week, so they don't have any of the issues of going into a new stadium and getting used to the turf. So for my first free pick, I'm going to take Buffalo, giving the 9 points.
All right, you heard it here, rookies. Jeff's got his first free pick. Take the Bills in that first game, -9 on the road. And the primetime Turkey Day slot, the Cowboys are hosting the Giants. The Cowboys came off an exceptional game against the Vikings. But no, Parsons did get banged up and not sure of his status. I don't know if you have anything on that, Jeff. Have you heard what his status is?
Yeah, it's knee and foot, but he's rested and not practiced, but he's almost guaranteed to play.
Okay. Well, that would be good. Hopefully he doesn't have to play long and we get him some extra rest because we need him down the stretch. The offense was clicking. The Cowboys' pass rush was really unblockable. Meanwhile, the Giants were beaten handily and could not run the ball against the Lions whatsoever. They've got O-line problems. The Cowboys are favored by 9 here, and the over-under is 44.5. Normally, I do not bet on or against the Cowboys because my emotions. But my first free pick of the week is take the Cowboys -9, despite Parsons being banged up. The Giants O-line, their heart and soul of that team is, in my opinion, just too beaten up. And with the Cowboys, will force Jones to win with his arm. And I think it's going to be a long day for the Giants. So that's my first free pick. Take the Cowboys -9. Jeff, what do you got?
Well, injuries to the Giants and then in general, the overall talent discrepancy point me to the Cowboys. Although there are 8 Cowboys that are out with the flu this week so far of practice. So while I feel pretty comfortable with them all playing, I don't know if they'll be as effective, maybe a little more winded. So I'm not going to go with free pick on this one, but I do feel good about Dallas covering the spread. So yeah, Dallas -9.
Well, I got to tell you, rookies, I was not tracking the flu. If that starts running through the team, you may want to stay away from that game. All right, the last Turkey Day game, we got the Pats traveling to Minnesota to face the shell-shocked Vikings. The Vikings are favored by 3, and the over-under is 42 and a hook. The Pats will be without center David Andrews and may miss him for the season. And the Pats won on a walk-off punt return against the Jets. I like the Vikings here, laying 3, but would fade to the under. Jeff, any value here for you?
I like the Vikings as well. I think they'll bounce back after last week. I think Dallas was just a really bad matchup for them. Plus, I don't like their game plan of trying to pass as much as they did against Dallas, because they should have known that that was their strength. But I think they'll bounce back here. I think New England, they're one of the young quarterbacks that struggled. So they haven't really been able to put pressure offensively on another team. So it's not going to force Minnesota to pass. So I think they'll pull away late and easily cover the 2.5. So, yep, I like Minnesota in this game.
Is it down to 2.5 now? I thought it was. So it dropped down to 2.5. I like it even better at 2.5. But not a free pick here, rookies, but we do like the Vikings at home for that final game. Hey, we kick off Sunday with the 7-3 Titans hosting the 6-4 Bengals. My game of the week with playoff implications on the line. The Bengals are favored by 1.5, and the over-under is 42.5. Watch closely if Mixon comes out of concussion protocol. Chase was back in practice. Not sure if they're going to put him in this week. The Titans did not have too many on the list of injuries as of Tuesday, but keep in mind they waited to inform last Saturday late, but they're coming in relatively healthy. The Titans have gotten no respect from Vegas despite going 4-5, winning 4 out of the last 5 and covering against the Chiefs in their 1 loss. I like the under here and would fade the Titans if Mixon can't go, but if Mixon goes, we'll look at the Bengals. Jeff?
So we'll jump right into my second free pick here. This is a pretty close game. I like what Tennessee has been doing, but I think the fact that Jamar Chase, from what I heard today, they're expecting him to at least play, but he'll be on a pitch count, basically. If Mixon gets back in there, I think that helps the Cincinnati offense. And then that whole thing with the Tennessee offensive coordinator being arrested for DUI after last week's game, I just got to think that's going to have some sort of issue with preparation and stuff this week. Plus, Cincinnati's beaten Tennessee the last 2 years head-to-head pretty convincingly. So I'm taking Cincinnati -2 for my free pick.
All right, you heard it here, rookies. Taking Cincinnati -2. So the line's moved even since I brought it up for Jeff's second free pick of the week. I like that pick. I do. I really do. I think I stayed away from this game altogether Just because, I know, I kind of like the under here. And I like the under even better with the potential problem with the offensive coordinator there. So here we go. All right. Jeff, you still got me?
Yep, still
There we
got
go.
you.
All right, here we go. All right, rookies, you heard it. Second free pick. All right, moving on. Next up, we have the Dolphins hosting the Texans. The Dolphins are favored by 12.5, maybe 13 by now, and the over-under is 46. The Fins are coming off a bye and looking to close out their division. Meanwhile, the Texans lost another game and really did not look good going into it. They've lost 5 in a row, and 8 games on the season will do that. 8 losses will just, kind of get the motivation. I mean, they've been playing tough most of those games, but it really last week is when I saw that they just didn't seem to be there. Now that just could be they had some injuries too, because that's that part of the season. The question for me is, can the Texans keep up with the Dolphins? And are the Dolphins potentially looking past this game to the remainder of their season? And they've got some tough games to close out. I mean, obviously they want to get to 8-3, but do they spend their time looking at the Texans in the bye week, or do they work on other teams? And I'm thinking they might have worked on other teams here. So I'd be careful. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
So I was just checking, the line has continued to grow. It's up to 13.5 now for Miami. And this is one of those interesting ones for my analysis, trying to look back, because if I looked at the whole year, Houston, because of the first 6 games, keeping it so close, my analysis would point me towards Houston. But then when I look at the last 5 games specifically, Houston has just increased their loss in differential each week except one. So they're really going in a bad direction. And when Tua is healthy, Miami's been really good. So I think I'm going to have to throw out a little bit of the early success for Houston and go with Miami in this one, minus 13.5.
Yeah, but this isn't going to be a free pick for you, right? Yeah, I kind of like Miami as well. Yeah, 13.5 though is getting to the point where it's that's tough bet to make against Lovie Smith. So rookies, but you heard it here. It could go that way for sure. But if the Texans show up like they did in the first part of the season, I think they could easily cover the 13.5. We'll just have to see which team shows up. And this is the part of the season that's tough to bet against or bet for some of these teams. So just keep that in mind as you're making your picks. Hey, next up, we got the Jets. They host the Bears and are favored by 4.5 with the injury to Fields, and that number could be moving as well. The over-under is 41 and a hook. Look, if Fields can't go, looks like Trevor Siemian will get the start. The Jets lost badly last week, and worse, the quarterback, despite playing poorly, didn't take accountability for the loss in the locker room. These are the kind of leadership lessons you hope quarterbacks learn in college. Even if there were drop balls and missed blocks, and it wasn't all your fault. The best leaders always take accountability for their actions and don't pawn it off. And I don't think he pawned it off, but he just didn't take it. And that's a problem. That being said, I think the coach is going to fix that. I do trust this coach. I think he's got a lot of leadership in him. I think this could be a good lesson for the young quarterback to learn. So I would favor the Jets here to get it done at home without Fields. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
This is a tricky game because of the quarterback issues on both sides, but I agree. I think benching Zach Wilson and bringing in Mike White might actually galvanize the Jets and, clear some of the bad air that's been going on in the past couple of weeks with Wilson. So I think that's going to be a positive. And even if Fields plays with a separated non-throwing shoulder, he's going to be limited. So in this one, I do like the Jets. It's not a free picks, but I'm taking them minus the 4.5.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, man, I really hope they're not gonna play Fields with a bum shoulder. I mean, I thought last year the Browns did it to Baker Mayfield, and I mean, look, it's not your throwing shoulder. I get it, but oh my gosh, man. I mean, especially with the talent, the young talent he is, I would hate for something I mean, I just think I think he's a tough kid, and I think if he wants to play, he will play. But I agree with you. I think with that bum shoulder, it's going to be tough for them to pull it out against that Jets defense, because that Jets defense is for real this year for sure. All right, next up, we got the Bucs going to Cleveland to face the Browns. Without Watson, he can't play until week 13. The Bucs coming off a bye week and getting healthier on both sides of the ball. The Browns lost a tough one to Buffalo, but ran the ball very effectively. The Bucs are favored by 3, and the over/under is 43. This feels like a get-right game for the Bucs, but have struggled more against mobile quarterbacks. The Bucs defense has, and that's what Jacoby Brissett brings, is some of that. So, and they got a pretty good running attack. And they covered against the Bengals at home, right? When they played them on that Monday night. The Browns defense has been exposed the last couple of weeks, and their center looks out to be multiple weeks. And I think that's going to be the real difference maker for this one. So I would fade the under here on the points, and I do like the Bucs. Jeff?
So my only concern with the Bucs, who I am going to bet on, but I know Vita Vea is missing practice with his bad foot. If he can't play, he's such a huge part of that run defense, it would drastically change things. So that's one I probably will keep an eye on right up till the last minute. But assuming he plays, I am definitely taking Tampa Bay in this one minus the points.
Yeah, I just don't see how the Browns are going to be able to run the football the way they have without their center.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it for me. I think when you lose your center in the NFL, it's just that big of a deal. And so, that's why I'm going with the Browns. But still, I mean, like I said, like we've both said before, keep watching the injury wire, because that can make a difference. All right, next up, the Commanders host the Falcons, are favored by 4.5 with the over/under set at 42. The Commanders are coming off really 2 good wins and 5-6, with the defense playing well at the right time for a stretch run. Looks like Chase Young is back after a year. I think he got hurt on the 14th of November last year for his ACL tear. It looks like he's back, but 2 of their starting linebackers, are questionable for the game. The Falcons lost Pitts and defensive tackle Graham for the season, a big blow to their offense that's been reeling of late due to injuries to their offensive line. They haven't been running the football as well, although they did get the win last week. This is the time of the season where injuries matter most. I would watch the situation of the linebackers for the Commanders. If they can go, I would lay the points with Pitts out. I would stay with but if those guys can't go, then this may be one to stay away from. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Washington, especially looking to get Chase Young back, at least in a limited basis. I think their defense will make it really difficult for Atlanta to score as long as those linebackers play. So I think if everybody does play, then Washington probably holds them to, less than 17. And so anything over 21 points for Washington wins the bet. So I'm going to go Washington minus the 4 here.
Okay. He came down to 4. That's good, because I'm going that way too. I'm surprised Vegas is going. I'm surprised the money's coming in out of Atlanta on this one. But there's a lot of folks in Atlanta that bet, so there's not as many people in DC that bet, I would imagine. Hey, the Panthers host the Broncos, 2 teams with 3 wins apiece. The Panthers put up a fight last week, but continue to be home dogs, with the Broncos favored by 2.5, and the over/under is 36. It's like it's a it's like a baseball game. Also saw it at 34 at one point, which it was even worse. Look, the Broncos defense continues to play well. So 36 seems high to me, despite these two teams. I think Baker Mayfield's back playing. The Broncos should have won the game last week. They screwed up in the third on that third down play. They should have just the quarterback there should have just ran the ball, got a few yards, and ate up 40 seconds of clock. Jeff, do you see any value here in this game?
This one I'm a little iffy on, and I just did check. It's actually come down to 2 points, so it's money seems to be coming in on Carolina. I guess if I had to, I was thinking that they should only be a 1 point dog, so I would probably lean towards Carolina, but boy, these offenses are just so bad, it's hard to predict. More than likely, I think I'll stay away from this game.
Yep. Sometimes that's the best bet to make is stay away from a game that you don't have any confidence in. Hey, the final noon game, we got the Jaguars hosting the Ravens and our Dogs by 4, and the over-under is set at 44. The Jags are coming off a bye week and looking to get back on track. The Ravens won a tough one last week at home against Carolina, but they lost their all-pro tackle, Stanley. Hopefully he can get back soon. That's that blindside protection. Without him, I look for more running of the quarterback. I think Lamar is gonna probably run the ball more. So maybe a prop bet, if you can get it, is an over on Lamar's rushing yards. Because I see what this happening is him not feeling comfortable in those longer passing downs and taking off more. And I see him, and then when he does that, he gets more yards, right? But I tell you what, I like the Jags at home here as dogs, and I would stay away from the over the points. Jeff?
So this one is one that gives me two different indicators for Jacksonville coming off the bye. I like that. And when I'm looking at point differential, I'm thinking it should be within like a 1 point spread. So the 4 point seems a little bit too much for Baltimore. But then I look at how Vegas has treated the teams, and Baltimore well outperforms Jacksonville in covering. So I'm kind of torn on this one. If I were going to choose, I'm probably going to go with Baltimore because they do so well against the spread. But it's another one I'm debating on whether I'm going to jump in or not.
Oh, you heard it here. I'm looking at the offensive line this week, and I'm making a lot of bets and favoring teams based on that. That's where my head's at. We'll see if that plays out. Our first 3 o'clock game, we have the Seahawks hosting the Raiders. The Hawks are favored by 3.5, and the over-under is 47.5. I hate to see 3.5, so I tend to stay away from those types of games. The Hawks are coming off a bye, and the Raiders won on a last-minute TD against Broncos last week. The Hawks continue to dominate on the ground, and with Smith playing well, they're in the playoff hunt and really the division hunt and need this game. With the 49ers getting it done last Monday in Mexico City. That being said, I like the Raiders here for the upset and would stay away from the points. Jeff?
3.5 is a famous upset spot. So the Raiders are a pretty good bet anyway to take that. The only thing that I'm still unsure of is how I thought last week they did a great job responding to all the negativity around their coach and disappointment of the season. But I don't know if that was a 1 week thing or if they're going to be able to build on it. So I'm still not really sure about their motivation and where their heads are. Seattle definitely needs the game. They're playing at home. I actually, on my sheet, I'm looking at taking Seattle minus 3.5.
Okay, you got a couple different opinions here on the game. I'm staying away from the points pretty much either way, because I think this thing could go high or low. And I don't know which way it's going to go, so I'm going to stay away. Hey, next up, the Chiefs host the defending Super Bowl champs, the LA Rams. The Chiefs are favored by 3 scores at home. I think it's like 14.5. and the over under is 44. I mean, when I look at a number at 14.5, I don't think of 2 touchdowns. I think of 3 scores. Because you don't get, there's no 1 point scores. I mean, yeah, you get the 2 point conversion, but if you're beating a team that bad, you're not going to go for 2. The Rams have been decimated on offense, and Stafford and Henderson remain questionable. Their offensive tackle is also questionable, despite the injuries. And how well the Chiefs have played. The Chiefs are not wowing anyone. And they have not had the Dallas type win, or even a 49ers win, in 3 or 4 weeks now. So I'm not sure that 3 scores is where I want to be, just because it's still the NFL. And teams, even when they're down, they're still the Super Bowl champs, and they still got a lot of pride. 3 scores is tough. Not tough in college, but tough in the NFL. Jeff, do you like either team here?
Well, I'm actually surprised it's jumped all the way to 15.5 already. That was a big jump in a day. So a lot of money coming in on Kansas City. I can see that. I see the issue without Cooper Kupp, star wideout, and without their quarterback. It is going to be hard for them to score. I'd probably cap them at about 14 points, but you're still looking at having to score over 30 against a pretty good Rams defense to cover that spread. That's getting tough. I was leaning towards Kansas City because in the months of November and December, Mahomes at home is pretty incredible. He just kills teams during those 2 months. But man, that's getting to be a high point spread. I'm somewhat backing off. I might stay away from this one.
Yeah, I'm probably going to do that as well. I may put some money down on the Rams though with the points. I've done that before and got burned. But it may be time where the Rams step up and just play better without their stars there out of pride. And if that happens, I still think the Chiefs get the win, but I don't know that they cover 15.5 points. And the way this thing goes, it may end up at 17. Now you're talking, 17.5, and you're talking 4 scores potentially. And that's really hard in the NFL because these are still grown ass men that have a lot of pride in what they do. So it's a lot of points. I don't know. That seems a little bit too much. All right, next up, we have the Cards hosting the Chargers. The Chargers are coming in as road favorites at 4.5, and the over-under is 44 and a hook. Chargers lost another close one to the Chiefs while the Cards play the 49ers in Mexico at Estadio Azteca and lost badly with a terrible performance in the second half. They played well up until that point, but second half, they didn't look good. The Chargers will be without their kicker and continue to be banged up, but they're getting pieces back slowly. The Cards have also been devastated by injuries with all-pro tight end Ertz out, and Murray was out last week, and Brown. So it's just tough. So I would definitely watch the injuries on these teams. Both of those players could be in the lineup, Murray and Brown, this week. But I like the Chargers here. The Cards have not played well at home. But above all that, I saw them last week in that game, and they can't really run the football without Murray in the game. I don't know what he does. He opens up Connor, I guess. I don't know. I know they got rid of their backup running back. He got picked up by the Texans. I know there's some controversy there, but they didn't look like they could run the football very effectively. Feels like they got 2 different schemes going offensively. Connors is definitely a power running scheme, but they've got a bunch of scat back, type wide receivers, and without their tight end, all pro tight end, it looked way out of sync. And I don't know. I mean, they played well the week prior, and maybe it was just the 49ers. But something tells me that there's some more bad stuff going on in Arizona. Can't really put my finger on the offense and where it's at. So I'm kind of going with the Chargers. Jeff, you like either team here?
This one is a pretty close one as far as my point differential, and injuries certainly play a role here. Arizona should get Kyler Murray back, which will be a big plus, but they didn't really disclose his status until game time last week. So I don't know if I can trust that at this point. Hated to see the Chargers. Mike Williams comes back for one game and then re-injures the ankle. He may play, but he'll be limited. They just can't seem to get the receivers healthy. But then I think the overriding factor for me is just Arizona has that weird thing about playing worse at home than on the road. So I think all said and done, I'm going the Chargers minus the points.
Yeah, you got two pretty good calls here. I guess, like we both said, got to watch Murray. Murray's a game changer. If he's in there, the offense looks different. And that's not taking any away from their backup quarterback. He's pretty good, but I just feel that their offense has got, with Ertz out, he was like the glue that kept the power game and because he could play the kind of fast, kind of sprint offense at the wide receiver that they're trying to run. And then they got Connors with the power, and that's great. But, I like to see bigger wide receivers when you're running that kind of power running game to get downfield, to get the blocks. I didn't see that happening against 49ers. All right, next up we have you got the Eagles. No, we got one more before that. Yeah, here we go. Okay, the 49ers host the Saints and are favored by 9.5. The over-under is at 43. The 49ers look dominated in the second half against Cards and look great all game. While the Saints beat the Rams to improve to 4-7, the Saints have quite a few questionables on defense. Despite the win last week, have not been playing that well since Week 8 win against the Raiders. They're also not particularly good on grass, going 0-3 this season. So for my second free pick, take the 49ers minus 9.5. I'm going with the power. Jeff?
Well, we're doubling up on our free picks on this one. So San Fran has had a great defense all year, but once they got McCaffrey, their offense has just been so diverse, really hard to stop. And I don't think New Orleans has enough offense to even keep this close. So my only concern, I debated a little bit about San Fran traveling back from Mexico City, the altitude and all that, but I just see them as being too strong. So for my third free pick, I'm taking San Fran minus the points.
Yeah, the only thing they could get coming out of Mexico City is too much tequila on that return flight, or maybe they ate street tacos and their stomachs aren't used to it. But other than that, if they got back okay, I would definitely go with the 49ers here. You got two free picks. I may ride the 49ers all the way to the Super Bowl. I think they look that good.
Yep.
All right, the Eagles are up next. They host the Packers on Sunday evening and are favored by 7 with the over-under at 46.5. Eagles won a close one last week, and the Packers lost essentially. They lost last week, essentially narrowing their chances for a playoff berth this season. The Pack are getting a mini-type bye with a Thursday loss to the Titans, and I kind of like that for Aaron Rodgers' thumb. But I don't know if that's going to make that much of a difference. That being said, both of the new defensive tackles for the Eagles played well. They kept the Colts at 99 yards rushing. But the Eagles' offense looks different without Goddard. And one has to think how well those new interior linemen are going to play in their second game back in the NFL. That's right. So I'm not sure. That was a pretty physical game against the Colts. Are those guys do they have the conditioning to be able to come back and not be sore and play another physical game? Because if the Packers run the ball, they can run the ball just as well as the Colts did and keep the game close. The Pack did not look good against the Titans and gave up some big plays to rookie Trey, I think his name is Burke, out of Arkansas. So I would expect A.J. Brown to play well this week and get back on track. But I still think something looks off in Philly, and I would fade the Eagles here and favor the Pack with the 7 points. And I'd stay away from the over-under because I think we could either see a pass-happy game or a run-eating time clock game, either one. And I don't want to pick one of those. Jeff, any thoughts here?
So I have noticed that Philadelphia looks different. Goddard is definitely a piece of it, but I'm not sure if maybe defenses have kind of figured out what they're doing this year and started to adjust and making it more difficult for Hurts. So I do see their points scaling back a little bit going forward with those two factors. Normally, I would think they'd win this by about 9, but now I'm looking at something like a 27-20 game, which puts it right on Vegas's spread. So I'm probably staying away from this one, actually.
Okay. I like the pack. It's not a free pick, but and it's not that I like the pack. It's that I don't trust the interior Eagles defense with the 2 players that are picked up. I don't think they're going to be, they were able to play pretty well last week, but I don't know they're going to be able to keep that up. And I don't like the Eagles offense without that tight end. Something's off. And therefore I still think they're going to win the football game, but I think it's going to be a tight game, just like the last couple of games they've played. All right, our Monday night game, we have the Colts hosting the Steelers. The Steelers are coming in playing much better defense, but the Colts are favored by 2.5 at home, and the over-under is a 39.5. The Colts lost a close one and really should have won the game. I like the Colts to win by a field goal. So for my third free pick, take the Colts minus 2.5 at home. Jeff, you like this game?
This was very close to my free pick threshold. I like the Colts by 4. So I think they're fairly consistent. Their strength winning against the spread is better than Pittsburgh. Their point differentials better than Pittsburgh. It's not got the big numbers like my free picks typically do, but it's consistently pointing towards Indy. So yeah, Indy minus the 2.5.
All right, so there you got it. My third free pick. I want to go back over my free picks just to make sure that we're straight. So I've got, for my first free pick, I got the Cowboys minus 9. The second one, I got the 49ers versus Saints minus 9.5. And, excuse me, my third one is the Colts minus 2.5 versus Steelers. Jeff?
So my 3, I've got Buffalo over Detroit. I've got Cincinnati over Tennessee by 2. And I had San Francisco over New Orleans by the 9.5.
Yeah, so the one pick that we have both here is really probably a no duh with the 49ers. I like them. Not only do they play great, but the Saints don't play well on grass. And that's pretty much played out this season. And I think it's going to continue. And I think they're going to win pretty easily. A couple other picks I just want to highlight that I think are not sure bets, but ones that I'm pretty comfortable with. I like Miami minus 6.5 in the first half versus the Texans at home. I think that was almost up there with mine. And then I'm kind of taking I'm kind of in the second half here. I'm kind of going with some dogs. I got Jags, Vegas, Rams, and Packers to all cover. Those are a couple games that I like for the remainder. Just that's kind of where I'm leaning with my picks this week. Now, the last thing I'd have to say for this week is you got to be really careful with the injuries. You really got to watch the wires, and you got to watch the you got to shop the lines because the lines are going to be moving. So make sure you get the best line possible for your money. Jeff, what are your thoughts for this week?
Yeah, I've been surprised looking at some of the bigger, full point jumps in the line versus yesterday. So there is a lot of movement. I've got to think that's related to hearing injury news. So I'll keep an eye on it. A couple of those I was wanting to bet at a more favorable number. So I'm hoping it will come back that direction. But if not, I will just stay away and play it safe. And then the 2 bets that I'm leaning towards that weren't free picks that I still felt good about. I did feel good about Dallas over the Giants. And I do feel good about, what was the last one? I felt pretty good about Indy over Pittsburgh.
All right, well, that's all we got today, rookies. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Good luck with Turkey Day, and we'll see you next week. Jeff?
That's all for me. Thanks. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right.